Most men's dream physique is to have lean muscular abs, but one of the hardest things about getting lean is being on a calorie deficit and losing body fat, because if you're like me, getting over the feeling of hunger is really hard and annoying. But as I've been on my cut recently, I figured out how to overcome that feeling of hunger, and I've lost 10 pounds of fat within 2 months. And I'm not going to tell you some basic advice that probably doesn't even work for you that you've already heard, like intermittent fasting or special foods or like making a shake that tastes like crap. The advice I'm going to give you is exactly what worked for me, that made weight loss and cutting 10 times easier. And if this video really helps you out and you want me to help you out on your fitness journey, check the link in the description for my one-on-one coaching, where I'll personally give you meal plans, custom exercise programs, and more. But anyways, let's go over what I found to be the most important thing for me to lose weight without feeling hungry all the time, which is the frequency in which you eat your meals. The volume of your meals can be looked at just the same way you treat volume and intensity in the gym. For me, 2 very large meals per day is the most effective, but you can also do 4 to 6 small meals a day. And these meals are going to suppress your appetite throughout all hours of the day, as opposed to the standard 3 meals a day, or the trap that many people fall into, which is fasting and suppressing your hunger all day just to eat a ton of food at the end of the day. And one major reason I prefer the 2 meals a day as opposed to the high frequency meals is because I get to eat like I'm in a bulk while I'm cutting. So for example, last week all I ate for dinner every day was literally just a bowl of 5 scrambled eggs, about 8 ounces of ground turkey, and about an ounce of spinach. And this is a high protein meal that actually tastes good and feels satiating enough that I don't feel hungry again after eating it. And a meal like this is not something people would try to eat while they're cutting or trying to lose weight. But I use tricks like using scrambled eggs instead of egg whites or fried eggs to feel more full, and using something like ground turkey instead of ground beef because it's lower in calories but it's still higher in protein. And you don't have to eat like a teenage girl with an eating disorder if you want to lose fat, and you don't have to eat like a rabbit. With lower frequency meals, you can still enjoy foods that taste good and that are filled with macro and micronutrients you need, but this doesn't mean that you can take it to the extreme as well and eat 2 meals of junk food or fast foods, because those foods tend to be so high in calories that the lower calorie and healthier options are like ordering off the kids menu, because they're so small, and even still they have a ton of chemicals that overall aren't good for you. So figure out which would be easier for you or more feasible with your schedule, either low frequency but high calorie meals or high frequency but low calorie meals. But regardless, make sure that these meals are healthy and they're high in protein so that you hit your daily protein goals and your other macro goals as well. But regardless of our meal frequency, when we're eating our meals, we actually want to pay attention to the order in which you eat your food. You've probably never thought about this, but depending on which food groups you eat first is actually going to determine how hungry you still feel. So let's say you have the standard bodybuilder meal of 1 chicken breast and a cup of broccoli and like a cup of rice. Which one do you think you should eat first? It's actually the chicken breast, because when our body receives protein first, it gives the signal that we don't need much more food after that. And this is the opposite of carbs like rice. And if you don't believe me, then think about when you eat French fries, popcorn, or chips. It's pretty hard to feel full off of those foods because you constantly want to eat more, and you almost never feel full even when you eat an entire portion or the recommended portions that they tell you to eat. So the order that you want to eat your meals is to eat the protein first, then the vegetables, and save the carbs for last. Doing this for me changed the game, because if you're like me, the carb heavy foods like pasta, potatoes, and rice are always the foods that I want to finish first before I touch the chicken or the beef. But when I changed the order and saved those foods for last, it actually became more of a chore for me because of how the meat and vegetables had already filled me. And so finally, the last tip that I can give you to stop feeling hungry during fat loss is to focus on the speed and the tempo in which you eat your meal. I always had the bad habit of eating really fast, especially if I was really hungry. But I realized that the slower you chew and eat your food, the more satiating it feels, because you really take the time to savor and digest the food instead of just shoving it down. And it's a pretty basic tip, but it's really effective, and it stopped me from wanting to eat more and more after I've already finished my meal. So if you're able to get anything from this video, it's to change your meal frequency either to very high or very low. Focus on prioritizing eating the protein first in your meals, and take the time to slow down and enjoy your food so that you don't feel the urge to eat as much. Following these tips has made the fat loss process for me 100 times easier, and I hope that I was able to help you out. And if you enjoyed this video and you want me to help you out on your fitness journey, consider signing up for my one-on-one coaching, where I'll give you your own customized meal plans. You don't have to worry about the stress of coming up with your new meals every single day. I'll give you your own exercise program that fits your schedule and builds optimal muscle, plus much more. And if you want to see if my coaching is right for you or you're unsure about the price, reach out to me on Instagram where we can talk and see if you're a good fit.